Good morning to all. Today I will teach you the second chapter of history, and the topic is growth of nationalism. As the first part of this chapter has been discussed, so today I will teach you the second part of this chapter. So before starting the French Revolution, let me tell you some points which has been discussed already in the first part of this chapter. So in the first part, you have studied about nationalism, American Revolution, Declaration of Independence, and influence of John Locke's ideas on the Declaration of Independence. So now we will study about French Revolution. So in this first point is at the beginning of 18th century, France was a monarchy ruled by an autocratic king. Second point, France society was divided into three states, or we can say instead of state, classes also. The first state consists of the clergy, the second state consists of the nobility, the third state consists of the peasants. So they were divided into the three different classes. Now next is the first and second state enjoyed many privileges and paid almost no taxes. Wealth was concentrated in their hands. Now second point, the third state has no privileges. This state bore the burden of taxation. The peasant had to perform unpaid compulsory services. Tax default was punished with imprisonment in the state prison called the Bastille, which became a symbol of oppression. Now next heading is States Journal. France had an assembly called the State Journal, meant to represent all the three states. The State Journal, however, was never summoned between 1614 and 1789. Now, the next topic is events before the revolution. So, in that first point, involvement in the War of American Independence put France in several financial crises. King Louis XVI proposed to increase the taxes to overcome the crisis. This arose the people's resentment. Next is in 1789, the king decided to summon the state journal, but wanted the three states to meet separately so that each state would exercise one vote. This would enable the first two states to easily outvote the third state. The third state demanded a combined meeting of all the three states with every member exercising one vote. When no agreement could be reached, the third state proclaimed itself the National Assembly on 17 June 1789. Now next topic is National Constituent Assembly. So first point, on 20th June 1789, the king had the National Assembly locked out of its usual meeting hall. Nevertheless, on the same day, the assembly met at a nearby tennis court and took the tennis court oath, promising to remain united until they could provide France with a democratic constitution. Now, second point, King Louis XVI finally yielded and ordered the first and second state to join the National Assembly. The National Assembly then became the National Constituent Assembly, which was to frame a constitution for France. The king, however, began to gather troops to reassess his authority, and the people's resentment against his growth. Ultimately, with liberty, equality, and fraternity as their slogan, the people rose. Now, third point, on 14th July 1789, the people of Paris stormed the Bastille and set the prisoners free. The king lost control over Paris. A new municipal body was set up and a citizens' force or National Guard was organized to restore law and order and to keep the nobles under control. Now the next is Declaration of Rights. In August 1789, The National Constituent Assembly of France adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. It states that all men are born free, are equal before the law, and cannot be denied the rights to life, liberty, and property. It also guaranteed freedom of speech and expression and protection from arrest without reason. The Constituent of 1791 established constitutional monarchy in France. Third point now, the idea of liberty, equality, and fraternity generated by the revolution spread across the rest of the Europe and later became popular all over the world. However, the Republican government failed to restore political calm in France. France also became involved in wars against the combined forces of several European states, including Austria, Prussia, and Britain. This caused heavy expenses and also allowed the military to gain in political power. It was in this situation that Napoleon Bonaparte, a young military officer inspired by revolutionary ideas, rose to prominence. Napoleon's first major victory came in 1793 when he drove out the British forces that had occupied the port. Therefore, he rapidly rose to the rank of a general. Now, next topic is France under Napoleon. In 1799, a change of government in France gave supreme power. Napoleon completed the educational and legal reforms begun after the French Revolution. Third point, in 1804, Napoleon introduced a new code of civil laws, later known as the Nepal Code. The code did away with privileges and established the revolutionary principle of equality before the law. It aimed to give effect to other revolutionary principles like individual liberty and freedom of work. It also protected private property. Now next is Napoleon and unification of Europe. Napoleon gave France able military leadership. Under him, France's armies won many victories, especially against Austria, Prussia, and Russia. Second point, Napoleon unified the regions that he conquered by establishing uniform administration and courts of law in these regions. Next is fall of Napoleon. In 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia. A large number of his soldiers died of cold and hunger during this campaign. His enemies now united against him and attacked France from all sides. Napoleon soon returned to France, raised an army, and recovered the throne. However, in 1815, he was defeated by the British and their allies in the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium. This time he was exiled to the island of St. Helena in the Atlantic Ocean. He died there in 1821. Next, nationalist movement spread across Europe in Poland, Greece, Germany, and Italy. The nationalist movement continued into the 20th century and spread over the whole world. Now, these are the points to remember, important points, the topic which we have discussed. So, first point is at the start of 18th century, France was a monarchy. The France society was divided into three states. The first state and the second state were wealthy and privileged and paid almost no taxes. The third state had no privileges but bore the burden of taxes. Now, third point, King Louis XVI proposed to increase taxes to overcome the financial crisis caused by France's involvement in the War of American Independence. Next point, on 14th July 1789, the people of Paris stormed the Bastille prison. In August 1789, the National Constituent Assembly adopted the Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Next point, a short-lived constitutional monarchy was established in 1791. A new assembly called the National Convention, elected in 1792, established a republican government. Now next slide, first point. King Louis XVI was beheaded in 1793. Next point. After proving his worth in wars fought by France shortly after the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte became a dictator in 1799. Last point, Napoleon reorganized education and established friendly relations with the church. In 1804, he introduced a code of laws. So in this chapter, we have studied French Revolution, Nepal Code, Declaration of Rights. So on that basis, the what we have discussed, on that basis some questions are there. You have to answer these questions by yourself. So first question in that is, what is French Revolution? Then second is, what is Napoleonic Code? Third is, what do you mean by Declaration of Rights? Then fourth is, define National Constituent Assembly. And the last question is, explain the three states of France society. Thank you.